You've been able to speak to your son.
What did you say to him when you visited him in court? Is he doing? How are you feeling today?
The legal troubles of Chat DeCasse and his son, Christian King, have grabbed a lot of public attention because of the serious accusations against them. Things took a dramatic turn as the music mogul found himself back in a federal courtroom in New York. A trial date has now been set for May 5th next year. Reporter Lisa Evers is live in Lower Manhattan with the latest updates on this case. Stephen, Natasha, this was Sean. This was Diddy Call's third time at the courthouse behind me, but his first appearance in front of a new judge. They worked out the schedule and set the trial date for May 5th, 2025. But what really stood out was the support from his family. His mother, Janice Combs, flew all the way from Florida to be by his side, along with most of his kids. In a touching moment, Sean K's son, Christian, better known as King Combs, held his grandmother's hand as they walked out of the courthouse together, surrounded by his siblings. It was a powerful show of family sticking together through tough times. The judge, Arun Subramanian, took a moment to acknowledge that Diddy Call's mother, Janice Combs, had traveled all the way from Florida to support her son, along with his children, who also came to be by his side in court. Throughout the proceedings, Call's attorney, Anthony Rico, sat next to him. Rico is also handling the appeal of Call's bail denial, which is being addressed in a separate case in the appeals court. This is a serious case with real consequences, and the judge has set the trial date for May 5th, 2025. Things got heated during the hearing when the lead federal prosecutor called out Call's lawyer, Mark Agnello, for comments he made in a TMZ documentary. Agnello had accused the government of racial bias and targeting Call, and he also complained about leaks to the media that stirred up public buzz. "I'm only sticking to what I've already said in court and in my filings," said women's rights attorney Gloria Allred, who represents some of Diddy's accusers in civil cases. Speaking outside the courthouse, she explained, "This has been incredibly hard for many of them. Just remembering what they say happened is both triggering and traumatizing." Diddy's recent arrest has caused a lot of buzz, leaving people asking what's next for him and his son, King. Here's a look at the key events so far and what these allegations could mean for their future.
18th was set for the next status conference. For now, Combs is back at MDC. He's been denied bail twice. His last hope of getting out before that May 2025 trial date beginning is for the appeals court to reverse the bail denial, and that could happen anytime within the next couple of weeks. We're live here in front of the courthouse. Let's check in with Teresa Priolo. She's been outside most of the day here. Teresa, what was it like out here?
There were so many people out here, Lisa. As you know, you were out here as well. P. Diddy is an international superstar, and so you have to imagine that this is a case that is bringing people from all over the world. We've seen local media here, national media, and yes, international media too, with also a huge showing among entertainment journalists. But we also saw today a lot of citizen journalists that were out here as well. People who grew up on Diddy's music, whose albums were the soundtrack of their lives, and they just told me that they feel like they needed to come down here and to just catch a glimpse of it all. Of course, we know that Diddy remains behind bars at MDC, but that's not stopping the crowds or the interest in this case.
I'm studying forensic sciences, my big thing is women and children, to protect women and children. So when I heard all of this going down, it was, just the hair on my back just went up.
If he's doing things like this, he needs to be in jail. There's nothing. Diddy needs to go to jail if this is what he's about.
Let's start by talking about his mom. We can all feel for her, right? She's not part of these allegations, and after reading her statements, you really can't help but feel sorry for her. But the question is, could what she says impact the case or change how people view it? Holland Reed, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how the entertainment industry feels after hearing her speak out. As a mom myself with a 23-year-old son, I totally understand wanting to protect him. But honestly, her statement feels like she's making excuses for him. I think she should have left this to the defense. This situation is way bigger than just wanting to protect your child, and from her statement, it almost seems like she's getting involved in a way that could support the defense. The document accuses him of serious actions like threats, coercion, and trafficking. He's pleaded not guilty to charges such as racketeering, conspiracy, and transporting people for prostitution. While some call him a pathological liar, we all make mistakes. Of course, we want to protect our kids when they go down the wrong path, but at the same time, I'd tell the mom, maybe take a moment to watch the video and really read through the allegations. This isn't just about a mother protecting her son. It feels like she's trying to shift the narrative, and I'm not sure that will help him in the end. I think they'll probably talk to her, but honestly, I don't expect it to add much value. Like Holland said, she's clearly on her son's side, and as his mom, she wants to protect him. We can't blame her for that. But she's so set in her belief in him that it might not be helpful. They'll probably talk to her just to cover all their bases, but I don't think it will give them much new information. Claude, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Melba, from a legal point of view, do you think the mom could end up playing any role in the trial? I do expect her to be there every day, sitting up front with Diddy's kids and other family members, just showing her support. As for Diddy's legal troubles, things got even more serious when a judge in New York denied his bail on September 17th, keeping him locked up until the trial. His situation worsened when his appeal to get out was rejected the very next day on September 18th. Now, as he remains behind bars, the public and media are keeping a close eye on how the charges will unfold in court.
Diddy's legal troubles continue to mount. His mother is coming to his defense in what she calls the public lynching of her son. Janice Smalls Combs released a statement on Sunday through her attorney saying, quote, she's devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations, but believes that her son deserves a chance to prove his innocence. The statement reads in part, quote, it is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies, to bear witness what seems like a public lynching of my son before he's had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain too unbearable to put into words. His mother's statement goes on to say, quote, this injustice has been unbearable for our family. The worst part of this ordeal is watching my beloved son be stripped of his dignity, not for what he did, but for what people chose to believe about him. So now let's talk about whether Diddy's mom could be a factor that affects the outcome of his trial. Let's bring in our power panel. It is Ladies Morning today. Talk about beauty and brains on the program. Here we have it. Still with us, former homicide prosecutor Melba Pearson, domestic violence expert, former law enforcement officer Claudia King, and entertainment commentator Holland Reed.
You make a great point, Mel. But the Cassie video still hasn't been addressed. It seems like the focus was more on how people feel about the situation. She's clearly frustrated, feeling like her son is being judged before the evidence even comes out. I totally agree with your take on the video. It wasn't really mentioned in what we've seen so far. Now, shifting gears to what's next for Diddy. Tomorrow, he'll be back in court, and there's word that a new judge will take over his case. This could give him a third shot at asking for bond. Remember, he's already been in front of 2 different federal judges, and both denied his bond, mainly because they're concerned he might intimidate witnesses or victims. So, Diddy's back in court tomorrow, and there's a lot of speculation about what might happen. We don't have a trial date yet, but we know there's still a lot at play. Do you think his defense will push for a bond reduction or ask for some new conditions like home confinement? Melba Pearson, what's your take on this? What can we expect legally? I do think the defense will try again to either lower his bail or come up with other options for his release, like home confinement or something along those lines. Something along those lines, I don't anticipate that it will be successful again based on the same argument around intimidation around safety to the community around potentially being a flight risk but at the end of the day, he is well known and is very visible, so unless he gets plastic surgery is going to be kind of hard for him to disappear. But at the end of the day, the safety through the community as well as the intimidation aspect I think is going to, reign supreme. And he's not going the link between Diddy's case and the allegations against his son King is significant. King, 26, is accused of willfully assaulting Omar K. while she worked on a yacht. Omar's lawyer Rodney Est Diggs has called Diddy's arrest a key step toward justice. I believe there's Probably going to be some scheduling discussions in terms of okay depositions or any disc outstanding disc discovery matters, anything along those lines, and maybe just kind of setting forth when a potential trial date might be when a reasonable time to set a trial date. Might be that's a really good point, Mela. Thank you for that. Holland, let me go to you please on outside of the courthouse tomorrow, cause we know optics are everything, especially in a high-profile case like this. The last appearance, we saw his children. What do we expect in terms of media interest support for him? For support for victims and people who might just be out there because they want to see justice for everybody affected by these allegations. I think it's going back to the same statement about the mother. It's very quiet in Hollywood, it's very quiet in entertainment, the music industry, AC Cossin board, because nobody wants to touch this as far as those that have their own entities to protect. What you're going to see though is the continued interest in who else is going to be exposed. You have mom coming out, of course, protecting him and making a statement, but who else do you really have protecting him or standing up for him? Not many people. So I think what you're going to see is maybe his closest family trying to spin the narrative, but you're going to have the same kind of deafening silence that we've been seeing because everyone is, again, like I said, before getting their ducks in a row, they're lawyering up because they're going to start exposing so much more that has been going on for decades. And I think that's what we're gearing up for, is a show much like an O.J. Simpson or the Menendez brothers. It's going to be the TV-worthy court TV that we expect to see with someone of his stature. Alan, I think you're exactly right. Thank you for that. And speaking of the magnitude of this, perfect question to send to you, Claudia King. When we think about this not being over, we don't know what investigators are doing right now. Tell us, what do you think they're doing at this juncture? They are talking to absolutely everybody that they can because there are going to be additional arrests, I believe, and so they're looking at who else is involved and what evidence they have for that. Really appreciate it. A great insight from you all. Claude, I know you're able to stick around with us. Have to say goodbye, and a big thank you to Melba Pearson and Holland Reed. We'll see you ladies soon. Thank you so much. In a statement to US Weekly, Diggs expressed hope that more victims would come forward. He highlighted that the arrest was a crucial step, not just for his client, but for all of Diddy alleged victims. To stated, we knew this was coming. The evidence is very clear, and it was only a matter of time.
I could see her giving maybe interviews trying to sway public opinion, but at the end of the day, I concur with what my two co-guests have said. At the end of the day, look at the Cassie video. And if you weren't ashamed of your son after he beat a skinny, defenseless woman within an inch of his life, then she's living in willful ignorance. And, she's not doing anything to help her son's case. Like Holland said, let the defense talk and stay out of it because he's dead wrong and he's not getting out from under this.
That's a really great point, Mel, but the Cassie video, that was not addressed. It was more about the public sentiment. She's convinced that people are convicting her son before even hearing the evidence in the case. I really appreciate that comment you just made about that video. There was nothing in regards to that from what we've seen. As for what's ahead for Diddy, let's shift gears to that, because tomorrow he's going to be back in court, and there are new reports that there's a brand new judge who's going to be overseeing his case. So that could potentially mean another chance for a third request at bond. Remember, he's been before two different federal judges. Both of them denied him bond, both really on the same major grounds, that he could intimidate victims or witnesses, and they see him as a threat in that regard. So when he's due back in court tomorrow, let's talk a little bit about what we can expect. We don't have a trial date yet. What can we expect when he comes to court? Do you think we will see a request for a bond reduction or modification? Melba Pearson, let me go to you first on this, please. Legally, what do you think we're going to see?
The children of Diddy Combs are speaking out for the first time since their father's arrest last week. 4 of Coles's 7 children writing on Instagram, "We have seen so many hurtful and false rumors circulating about our parents Kim Porter and Sean Coles's relationship, as well as about our mom's tragic passing, that we feel the need to speak out. Claims that our mom wrote a book are simply untrue. She did not, and anyone claiming to have a manuscript is misrepresenting themselves. A 60-page, unverified book published earlier this Month claimed to be the collection of diaries of poor who died at the age of 47. In 2018, the children, who don't mention their father's arrest in the statement, go on to write, "Our mother should be remembered for the beautiful, strong, kind, and loving woman she was. Her memory should not be tainted by horrific conspiracy theories." The message coming as another accuser goes public with allegations against Combs. Talia Graves claims in a civil lawsuit Combs and his bodyguard drug-bound and raped her in 2001 and filmed it. It's a pain that reaches into your very core of who you are and leaving emotional scores that may never fully heal. The 54-year-old Coles has pleaded not guilty to charges he led a criminal conspiracy that abused women, and Aaron Key joins me now with more on this. On how significant is it to have a new accuser making claims like this on camera as Did's facing these criminal charges? Well, look, she is detailing in an anguished appearance with her attorney Gloria Aled what she said happened to her in 2001 and the lasting impact that she said it had on her, and coming after Sean Coles's arrest on criminal charges perhaps lends some additional credibility because he's already been charged in a racketeering conspiracy that sought out women for abuse. She's also filed a civil suit. Could that affect the criminal case at all? The civil suit is at least the 12th filed against Sean Diddy Combs, and the first one from last November by Cassie Ventura is really what touched off the criminal case that led to Diddy's arrest and subsequent not guilty plea on the 3 criminal counts. Without the civil suit, there are probably not criminal charges against Sean Combs, but all the civil cases are now likely to be paused while the criminal case takes priority. Now, some of Coles's children issued this statement on Instagram speaking out in defense of their mother, but they didn't really mention their father. What do you make of that? It was an interesting statement coming a little more than a week after Coles's arrest here in New York. And the children seemed quite protective of Kim Porter's legacy because there's this 60-page unverified manuscript online that claims to be Kim Porter's diary entries or a compilation of some of her thoughts, and the children said that it just isn't true, and they didn't want her and her memory coming lead with him and the criminal case that he's now facing. And what's next in that case? Now he's back in court in early October. For now, he is being housed in protective custody at a federal jail in Brooklyn. He's in a dormitory-style open housing cell with Sam Bankman-Fried, among others. All right, senior investigative correspondent Aaron Key, thank you. The against Sean Combs might as well just be called the freak-offs, these allegedly illegal freak-offs. It's all about the freak-offs in one way, shape, or form. Freak-off, 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 freak-offs. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time. Prosecutors say that these were elaborately produced events, bringing lighting and cameras. Lennon prosecutors said he would masturbate during these freak-offs, and women had no choice. Drug-fueled orgies, prostitution, and a cover-up. Freak-offs, as they're called, at the core of a searing 3-count federal indictment against Diddy Combs. Sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, interstate transportation for prostitution. Now a look at the charges that threatened to end his career and his freedom inside the fall from grace from the powerful impresario, a reckoning that some say is long overdue. He says, "Oh, I'm hip-hop." Yeah, well, you know what? Hip-hop deserves better. During the coastal raids on his homes in Law and Miami, authorities say they seized various freak-off supplies, including drugs, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Federal prosecutors said Sean Combs did not act alone. He had assistant managers, security staff, who would make sure that women and male prostitutes were at these freak-offs, that the hotel rooms where they were staged were stocked with supplies like baby.
And Aaron Katursky joins me now with more on this. Aaron, how significant is it to have a new accuser making claims like this on camera as Diddy's facing these criminal charges?
Well, look, she is detailing in an anguished appearance with her attorney Gloria Allred what she said happened to her in 2001 and the lasting impact that she said it had on her. And coming after Sean Combs's arrest on criminal charges perhaps lends some additional credibility because he's already been charged in a racketeering conspiracy that sought out women for abuse.
She's also filed a civil suit. Could that affect the criminal case at all?
The civil suit is at least the 12th filed against Sean Diddy Combs, and the first one from last November by Cassie Ventura is really what touched off the criminal case that led to Diddy's arrest and subsequent not guilty plea on the 3 criminal counts. Without the civil suit, there are probably not criminal charges against Sean Combs, but all the civil cases are now likely to be paused while the criminal case takes priority.
Now, some of Combs's children issued this statement on Instagram, speaking out in defense of their mother, but they didn't really mention their father. What do you make of that?
It was an interesting statement coming a little more than a week after Combs's arrest here in New York. And the children seemed quite protective of Kim Porter's legacy because there's this 60-page unverified manuscript online that claims to be Kim Porter's diary entries or a compilation of some of her thoughts. And the children said that it just isn't true. And they didn't want her and her memory commingled with him and the criminal case that he's now facing.
And what's next in that case now?
He's back in court in early October. For now, he is being housed in protective custody at a federal jail in Brooklyn. He's in a dormitory-style open housing cell with Sam Bankman-Fried, among others.